Good evening, everyone. It is 7 p.m. Central African time. I think we're just going to wait for 5 more minutes and then we can start. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
5 minutes later.
So it's 7:05 Central African time. So I believe we can start. Okay, good evening once again. President Uhuru Kenyatta on the 9th of September 2021 encouraged the African youth to take up agriculture, saying the sector holds enormous potential to create jobs and spur the continent's economic transformation. However, it seems a majority do not find farming attractive. Why is this? This evening, Define Your Voice Network has brought together 4 panelists to discuss the decision-making process of what agripreneurship venture to invest in. Tonight, we're going to be using agribusiness and agripreneurship interchangeably. The goal of Define Your Voice Network is to build a proactive and problem-solving mindset amongst the African youth. Tonight's panel discussion is brought to you by Shake Solutions and Masarapi. My name is Stanley Mlenga, and I'm joining in from Blantyre, Malawi. And tonight we have a very green panel. They are all about agriculture. Panelists are reminded not to switch off their cameras, and I will call out the panelists and they will introduce themselves. From Nigeria, we have Emmanuel. He happens to be the CEO of Olix Farms, and he happens to be the lead consulting partner with Epic Agro Consults Limited. Emmanuel, good evening. Are you on? Have you joined?
Yes, good evening. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can. We can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Okay, so that's Emmanuel. He's on. From Nigeria, we also have Ifamo, who happens to be the founder of Farm Chicks. Ifamo, good evening. Hi, how are you?
Good evening. I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. From Botswana, Botswana happens to be my home away from home. We have Kefilwe, who happens to be the CEO of Kavana Farms. Kefilwe, Dumelang. Good evening. Hi, how are you?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. How are you?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you very much. From Malawi, we have Nixon. Nixon happens to be the owner of Chitete Transport. They transport goods all over Malawi, and he happens to be a very big farmer in Kasungu, Malawi. Nixon, good evening. Hi, how are you? I think we seem to have lost Nixon. Okay, to start the ball rolling, I am going to ask the panelists a few questions. Question number 1, I think I should start with Emmanuel. Emmanuel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
yes,
thank you
I
very
can.
much. Thank you very much. So my question is very short. How did you find yourself into agriculture, and what motivated you to go into agripreneurship? And what challenges have you faced so far? That's my very first question, Emmanuel.
Okay. Thank you for that question. Pardon me. Okay, Mr. Stanley. Yeah. Thank you for that one. Okay. I would say that I was really exposed to agriculture from a very tender age. I guess that's when I was still in high school. Yeah, so it appears to be one of my A courses. Like I I don't need so much. I don't need to bother myself or struggle or study so hard to have a grasp of the subject the subject as it were then, and it turns out to be a thing I really have passion for or love to do. And growing up, I had a lot of people and mentors that I look up to, and they were researchers in that field. So it was sort of a flip for me, and I guess over time. Um, I found some kind of focus in that direction that I grew the focus and the love, the passion over time. And just, it's more than just a job or a career. It's more like a vocation for me. It's something I love doing. So it was actually influenced by my environment and my passion for it.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Emmanuel has stated that he loves agriculture, and basically he found himself into agriculture because of the environment that he was in. Yes, Efamu, over to you. How did you find yourself into agriculture? And what challenges have you faced so far? Emmanuel, you did not answer that question. The challenges that you faced so far in agriculture.
Oh, pardon me. I guess I missed out on that part. Okay. It all depends on the level one could be at the point, because I know at every stage in life or at every stage in any career vocation, you must have faced challenges. Would I say before my entry into this field as a career path or as a business to me, I had a challenge of peer pressure. Yeah. Excuse me, please.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Hello.
So I had a challenge. I'm with you. I could remember then when I was trying to select, when I was trying to build on this, I once had to share this with my friends or peers of those periods. And when they ask what they want to do or why they want to, the field they choose, you see some of them, they are into engineering, they are into other field, medicine and all of that. And when it gets to me, they often laugh at agriculture because they have a stereotype of agriculture as the kind where you see on papers, pictures and video and on all these social media, those media pages, where a typical way to describe agriculture is one dressed in rags, haggard, and one where you could just have a mental picture of someone, a profession that is just a field of a profession that could just best describe as drudgery. So for me, it affected my self-esteem. For me to boldly say in the public that I would want to be a farmer or I would want to venture into this career. So that part of it, it comes with some kind of stereotype. But over time, I was able to beat that. And then another one is agriculture in some settings, maybe in Nigeria here. Apart from that stereotype, they are not really, it's just of recent that there have been some kind of government intervention to promote this because I guess the society has not been enlightened that in a nation or in a society where there are no emphasis on agriculture, that the hunger or starvation will be prevalent in that society. So now farmers are being promoted, and because come to realize that they have a part to play in the society. But before, when they were being regulated, you wouldn't boldly say that you're a farmer because there's no support for you there. Talking about funding and finance, talking about the courage, talking about policies that will help you to even set up business. That's the ease of doing business. Those structures and systems were not there in the first place. So these were actually the challenges that you will have to navigate these things on your own before you could find a footing to get to say that you're now established as a career person or as an enterprise. So I think that's just a bit I could recall.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. It seems that you had a few bottlenecks towards your journey into farming. Ifamu, over to you. How did you find yourself in agriculture?
Okay, I think I was supposed to do an introduction before now. So let me do that now of what I do in the agricultural space. So people won't get lost while I'm speaking.
Yes.
I always describe myself as a farmer. However, I run a poultry farm in northern Nigeria where we raise our birds. I don't like to use the word organic because, if you want to declare a product organic, it means that you have done a lot of certification from the seeds down to planting and the soil testing and everything. But for us, we raise our birds naturally with locally grown herbs and spices. So we prevent or we avoid rather using the synthetic antibiotics and medication. So we raise our birds naturally with herbs and spices that are locally sourced. Also, I work with smallholder farmers at Farmatrix. So that is Farms Farm for the poultry farm. And for me working with smallholder farmers, right? I work with smallholder farmers in northern Nigeria to help them get access to market and connect them to off-takers. So realizing that there's post-harvest loss. In Nigeria currently, we are unable to feed ourselves because we get to import a lot of things. But again, we still have almost 40-45% of our produce going to waste annually, which is not really sustainable because it means that over time we might just go hungry because we may not be able to feed ourselves as a country. So I work with smallholder farmers to help them prevent this by connecting them to market as soon as possible and making them more profitable. And currently, I am building a solution with a group of people where we help young farmers in Africa, but starting in Nigeria, get access to finance to help them fulfill their purchase order. So if you are a grain aggregator, for now, starting with grains, but if you're an aggregator in any agricultural space and you're looking for money to fulfill your purchase order, so that means that you already have a company who you'll be supplying, but because of some financial challenges, you're unable to fulfill that purchase order at the time. We can help you connect, we can give you access to finance, help you with logistics, and at some point, also help farmers to connect to market. So back to how to agriculture. I think I just found myself in the agricultural space somehow because I like the fact that you can put something to the ground and it grows and it gives you food to eat. To me, it is very fascinating. And that's one of the reasons I delved into agriculture. And during my national youth service, so in Nigeria, after your first degree in the university or polytechnic, you go and serve your country for 1 year, a compulsory service. So during that year, so there's community development services, CDS. My CDS was on sustainable SDGs, sustainable development goals, yes. So I started finding interest in goal 1 and 2, which made me more curious. So if you want to end hunger, want to end poverty, how will you do that? To me, it's through food, because if people cannot eat, they really cannot do any other thing, right? So from there, I volunteered in an agricultural company, Protect Ozone, where we're training community members on sustainable agricultural practices and using waste to wealth. So using economical waste and agricultural waste, environmental waste, sorry. So like tires, recycling tires or upcycling tires, containers to grow food at your backyard. So from there, I grew into starting my own company where I started connecting farmers to off-takers. And that one of the reasons why I started doing that was because I grew up in Lagos State, Nigeria. It's like a very commercial city. Then I moved to the northern part of Nigeria, which is a bit more reserved. But while I was in Lagos, I saw how people really buy this stuff from farmers, or not from farmers, from off-takers, or from the middlemen. But coming down to the north where we grow all this food, you get to see that they are struggling as a farmer. To me, a farmer shouldn't be a poor person, right? A farmer should be the one who is even enjoying more money because I am feeding you, so I shouldn't be poor. But the thing is, most farmers are poor because the middlemen are making more money off them. So I decided to break in that gap. And that was how I became an agricultural person, and I started my own farm too on grains, maize, and soybeans, which burnt my finger at some point, which is how I'm going to start my own challenges. I started maize farming 2 years ago with my father. And over time, they told us that I was going to the farm, but we were told that the Fulanis, so the herdsmen, they've been having some insecurity in northern Nigeria, and it really affected us during when we were farming. They went during the harvest time, the maize were already grown and they were harvesting, but they went to burn down everything. So we lost money, we lost everything at that time. I think the only thing we could harvest or at the end that we could get was like 2 bags, which is 200 kg. It wasn't even up to 200 kg of maize on a farmland that would have gotten over 8,000 kg. We got only 200 kg. So it was a big loss for us. But again, we moved, so we started again, right? So for me, one of the challenges that I'm currently facing is insecurity in Nigeria, and which I feel over time is going to stop. Then for the finances, it's a bit difficult now. However, I won't even lie, I've gained some of this financial help from organizations, but that was because I went in as, I don't know, maybe as a solution provider, but it's a bit difficult for youth in agriculture these days to get aid in finances from the government or from individuals. But there are solutions to that. Maybe we'll talk about it in another question or something, but I think there are ways youth can also engage in accessing finance for their agricultural endeavors.
Okay. Thank you very much. You've told us about how you got into agriculture and the challenges that you faced, and it seems that finance is being mentioned. Finance has been mentioned twice by you and Emmanuel. We will get back to that. So, my brother Nixon, how did you find yourself into agriculture, and what are the major challenges that you're facing so far? You're on mute. You're on mute, Nixon.
Hello.
Yes,
Can
I
you
can
hear
hear
me
you.
now?
Yes, I can.
Sorry everybody about that. Two words only come to my mind when it comes to agriculture, which are my father, and may his soul rest in peace. So my father was into agriculture as well. He was a big businessman, especially in the agriculture sector. So for me, growing under him, I learned quite a lot. And for over 10 to 12 years, I was set of agriculture, because agriculture is a process. So growing with an agriculture mindset quite helped me a lot. And most importantly, he sent me to an agriculture school, which is Bunda College of Agriculture, where I studied agribusiness management. So the influence which my dad had on me, combined with the knowledge that I acquired in college about agriculture, I knew right away, or my path was clearly set, that I was supposed to be into agriculture. So for me, it wasn't a surprise. I knew where I wanted to be. Challenges. The challenges that I've faced so far, from the onset when I decided to venture into agriculture, to take it as a career, was the negativity that I faced from my fellow peers, especially within my cohort, my age range. Agriculture to most youth is not attractive. If you're not in Africa, most of the foods are grown by the rural population, in which most of the small-scale farmers, and these small-scale farmers mostly are practicing subsistence farming, and most of these small-scale farmers are living very extreme poverty levels. So these two scenarios combined, you can see that a lot of youth are shying away from taking up agriculture as a career, and the working environment as well that is in Malawi. You can see most of them are shying away from taking up agriculture, especially the high costs of labor or land, the high interest rates that we're facing currently. So most of them are kind of shying away from agriculture. The other setback that I had was the lack of infra markets. We don't have properly structured markets in Malawi. So you tend to sell to unstructured markets whereby you meet a lot of tricksters, which usually rob you from what you're supposed to get at the end. So I encountered that quite a lot when I started my business, but slowly I'm getting by. Yeah, those are the few challenges that I faced so far, but otherwise everything seems to be normal. Everything seems to be fine.
Okay, thank you very much, Nixon. So it seems finance, negativity,
Yes.
and middlemen.
Yes.
These are popping up quite a bit. I've heard these from Emmanuel, from Ifamu, and from Nixon as well. Okay, we'll get back to these. Kefilwe, my sister, how did you find yourself? How did you find yourself in agriculture, and what are some of the challenges that you're facing so far?
Okay, just like Emmanuel and Nixon, I want to believe that it looks like everybody has been in the agriculture because of their father. So to me also, it's not a new story. I grew up into the farming family where we used to wake up every day and we're forced to go to the fields, and that's how I found myself into agriculture. So growing up, we used to do that almost every day. And then I looked back and looked at how many youth are in the agriculture industry. And you find that it's a culture that when you have retired, that's when you can now be into the agriculture industry. But you cannot be into agriculture as a youth. You have to work into the office first for 45 years, and then later, that's when you can venture into agriculture. So I found that opportunity and I managed to get inside there that it's better to start early than later. The challenges, it's been getting the funds. You get into the government, and as young as I am, and also a woman on top of that, we know that the agriculture industry is mainly dominated by men. So being a woman and also being youth, they'll tell you that you can't get the funds because from there you're going to misuse them. And the other challenge has been sharing of information. Here in our country, it's very little for farmers to share information. Remember that when you get information from another farmer, they see you as a competitor. So they always have this feeling that the moment you get the information, you're going to overpower them, which is not always the case, though. So that has been my main challenge. And also stigmatization, as Nixon has said, whereby they tell you that you are young and you are a woman, you need to be in the office, you need to be wearing stilettos, you cannot be putting on the gumboots, and this is not for you. So those have been the challenges so far.
Thank you very much for that insight of how you got into farming and the challenges that you've met so far. So far, you've got negativity. You've got finance, high cost of labor, markets, middlemen, sharing of information, and stigma. These have been popping up quite a lot. And somebody was telling me that the African youth do not like agriculture. They do not like agriculture. So my question is, let's talk about the youth and agriculture. How would you motivate the youth in Africa to venture into agribusiness, agripreneurship? And how would you walk them through into making a decision towards investing in agribusiness? Let's see, who should we start with? Does anyone want to start? Does anyone want to answer this?
just to start, my fellows will chip in. I always say it's with agriculture, because it takes a lot of investing to do. I always advise them to start early, to say the earlier the better, because we need to get away with the stigma that you need to start when you are at least 50 or when you retire. So I always advise that the earlier the better, so that you can learn. Remember that farming, mostly it's hands-on. You need the experience is on the ground. So you need to have more experience. So for you to at least achieve better or to achieve more, you need to start earlier. So I always say, wherever you are or how small it is, just start.
Just start early, as Kithilo has said. Nixon,
Yes.
you want to chip in?
Yes, certainly. Like I mentioned earlier on, land acquisition is quite a challenge. So I would motivate the youth to move away from crop husbandry, not completely move away, but then they should look beyond crop husbandry and maybe venture into animal husbandry. It's not as expensive as crop husbandry, but then you can start small and then build onwards from there. Yeah, and then also I think like Clefio said agriculture is a process. So if parents or educational systems could start at an early age, instilling the mindset that agriculture is not just about crops, but then it's also a business on its own. If they can put that mindset in them, I think most youth would join agriculture, because most youth think that agriculture is just about crops and that's it, just food. But then most of them don't know that agriculture is a business on its own. So if we can put that education system in place from an early stage, I think it would be very helpful, and most youth would be motivated to join agriculture and take it up as a career. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nixon. Nixon has stated that maybe if the youth might shy away from crop husbandry to animal husbandry, and if a mindset was instilled, and if, you know, from an early age, if they were taught about agriculture, maybe they would want to join agriculture. Emmanuel, do you have anything to add on to this?
Sure, I would. Looking at the statistics, right now, um, we are in in an era where food is becoming a necessity. Like almost poverty. Hunger is so synonymous to poverty right now, and there are lots of poor people in the world. And almost every day you check the news, the news is just it carries so much negative news about Africa and how they are so synonymous to poverty and hunger. And there's no saying the fact that agriculture could just be one of those viable solutions to that. And in Africa here, per se, we cannot compare our system of agriculture to the Western system of agriculture, where a farmer, maybe in the Western world, say US or the Europe, could own a large expanse of land where just a single farmer can feed a community or even a state. But here, our system of agriculture, we all know it's so marginalized that we practice, like Nielsen said, subsistence system of agriculture. Same thing applies to crop farming. The same applies to livestock production, and it will really be encouraging to advocate for youth engagement in agriculture. Look at the statistics that in the next decade, that is by 2030, the world population is going to triple. So that means there is, if at the moment, from the last statistics of, I guess it should be World Bank that released that statistics that in Africa or in the whole world, yeah, about 6.6 billion to feed. So if we bring it down to Africa, looking at the population, the population at the African continent is contributing, that's a lot of mouths to feed. And where are this food going to come from to feed these extra people? Because this day we are fighting hidden hunger, we are fighting a whole lot, and even the insecurity in Africa is making things worse. So we need to get all hands on deck by encouraging the young ones to engage in agriculture. And how do we do this? It's by leading the campaign, by championing the cause for this. Because when we get involved and we have something to show for our active participation in agriculture, then the other ones can really follow our trails and get involved, because there's a whole lot to do about feeding the society. And it's not just one man business. The government is involved, the private sector is involved, even individuals and families. We are all involved at the bottom pyramid of these whole stakeholders to be able to provide food that will feed all the numbers on the statistics. So I guess I will leave it at there to also hear from others.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Emmanuel has stated that we should engage the young ones, and we should champion the campaign, and then maybe the youth might want to venture into agriculture. Ifamu, do you have anything to add on to that?
Well, they've said literally everything, but I would just like to add two things. One, just like Nizon and Kefiwe had said, that agriculture is a business. Yes, if we put it out there and make it known to everybody, or let them be more aware that agriculture is a business on its own, it's a journey, and it is not just a retirement plan, right? It's not something that you delve into when you are 40, you're just looking for something to do before you die. No. And also, we are solution providers. If we also make it
Hello, Ifamu, I think we've lost you there for a minute. Might be network problems.
let people know that we are providing solutions, right? We do not just sell, so provide solution for a lot of people, and make, they call it in other African countries, but in Nigeria they call it like a plot of land, right? 100 square meters. So if you have a plot of land and you are investing, let's say 1,000 kg tomatoes, but you think you're only selling to 10 people, 10 women, let them understand that there's a chain to this thing. It is not just me supplying to 10, 20 women, but over 500 or over 100 people are also benefiting from this. So people want to come more into agricultural space and say, okay, I'm going to also provide solution to a lot of people and not just for my immediate community.
Thank you very much, Ifamu. I lost you there for a minute. Apologies, but I see that we have a question from Rashid Binganjia. Rashid, over to you, sir. You have a question. I've seen that you raised your hand.
Not necessarily, it was not a question, but I also wanted to chip in to answer the question on making agriculture attractive.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, so I consider this whole problem of considering agriculture being an attractive as coming from the way we define agriculture. So as a solution, I think agriculture can be attractive if we consider the whole value chain in which we can promote through use of role models to the youth that indeed there are other things that can be done in agriculture, not necessarily confining ourselves to production. So there are issues as shared by on this platform again. I've picked issues on the transportation that somebody can engage as an enterprise in agriculture. Again, there are issues of value addition. There was also mention of a challenge as the asymmetry of information. So the youth, you see that nowadays, there are those that are more interested in issues of ICT. So if we take the issue of information in agriculture, so that those are interested in IT can also help. And there was also mention, I think, from another presenter, there was mention of financing, in which I'm also seeing that one as another venture that somebody may be interested to join in to provide tailor-made solution to agriculture. So if we define agriculture as the whole lot of things that can be done other than production only, I think then we have a solution in there. Again, we may also use youth champions. I've heard quite from the presenters what they are doing. I think is quite commendable, and we should make a big show of that. We should be seen so that we can encourage other people. So by having role models and the youth champions, we can then be communicating positive perception of agriculture as a career. So indeed, agriculture should be considered as a career, not something that somebody should do in their old age. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rashid. Well elaborated there. He talked about the challenges faced, and he talked about solutions to these challenges. Thank you very much, Rashid. I have seen that there is a question by Jonas Chisi. Jonas has asked two questions. The first question he asks, imagine a person with no agriculture background and has no substantial finance to start an agriculture venture, but he has a heart and skill for the same. What would you advise them to do? That's question number one. This is going out to our panelists. And the second question he has asked is, how do you deal with established agriculture merchants who have monopolized the market? And what would you advise one to do to penetrate the market? We're having serious issues with the question number 2 in Malawi, monopoly of the market. Efamu, over to you. I've seen that you'd like to answer the questions first.
Yes, I would like to answer the first question. So I know that, yes, finance is like a very big challenge in the agricultural space, but again, we can look at partnerships. And this is one of the things that we as Africans get to shy away from. We want to always take the shine regardless. We want to be the front person, we want to be the person that is always in the picture. But again, if we are after the cause, if you're after providing food for the nation, if you're after feeding people and growing, you should always look at partnership regardless of the level. So let's say you already have the skill and you can partner with someone who is looking for maybe volunteers and you're willing to walk through the process. So over time, yes, you're going to grow and get your own money to do what you want to do. So partnership is very key in the agricultural space, and with that, a lot of us are going to grow faster. So let's say me, I'm in Nigeria, you're in Malawi, and there are things that we can do together and make our economy grow better. That doesn't mean that I have the money, but if I can leverage on your platform that you're already grown, we can grow something together and make profit and maybe share profit. And over time,
we seem to have lost Efamu there. Efamu? Oops. Network challenges. Okay.
I build what I want to build, make my own money and grow my own business, right? So partnership is very key, and it's also going to help if you have the skill and you do not have the finance to push for it.
Thank you very much, Efamu. The network keeps on breaking. So she was talking about partnership. We can deal with, we can, partnership is very key in agriculture, and networking is also quite key. Panelists, would you like to also answer the two questions that were asked?
Yeah, I will try to contribute something to that. Hello, are you with me?
Yes, yes, sir. Go ahead. Please kindly answer.
Um, okay, you may have to pardon me for my video. I guess I'm having my light is flickering here, so I had to turn it off because it's not. I'm not. My face is not properly illuminated. I hope that
No,
doesn't distract.
no worries, sir. No worries.
Okay, so trying to attempt to answer her question. He said, imagine a person with no agricultural background and has no substantial finance to start an agricultural venture. But the passion and I guess the passion or the interest is there. What would you advise them to do? Yeah, um, they will say right now that the world is a global village, and virtually you can learn everything right now, even without going to school as a professional course. And agriculture is one of those parts where I believe anyone that has the interest can actually get involved, provided your interest or your passion is the one driving you. But we also wouldn't undermine the fact that agriculture is as the case may be, we call it agripreneurship, which is also a part of entrepreneurship in agriculture. What does that mean actually? Because when talking about entrepreneurship, you're talking about value offering in business, and it has to come with a leadership skill. So you can't really go into something where you haven't built the capacity, even though you have the interest. If you have the interest and you don't have the skill set, the capacity to help you bring those interests to reality, that boat is more like a boat that is bound to capsize on the sea because you can't really navigate your way back or forward. You're just in the middle of nowhere. And what I would advise is that the person will have to say, why do you really want to evolve in agriculture? These are some of the steps. These questions will help you decide if you're really interested. And I guess it the question has to start by why the business, and if you're really interested in doing it, where would you want to do it? What is the ecosystem like? When you get to understand how the ecosystem is like, it will help you to understand the part you can play because you cannot decide you want to come into agriculture and you want to play across all the entire chain, the ecosystem. Like for me, Olix Farm, from the onset, we had interest in poultry farming, that's livestock. Livestock as a whole, but it has a lot of value chain. I cannot decide that I want to invest in a livestock and I will want to invest in the whole value chain in poultry, talking about the feed formulation, the input, the logistics, the it's a whole lot. So you have to decide this is the ecosystem and this is the value chain that is interconnected. Which area do I really have the enabling skill set to thrive as a business? And what is my competition like? The environment, is it favorable? What are the policies we have in this country? Do we have monopolies? Is it more like do we have some sort of monopoly where I know that if I am launching out right now from the very first step, I'm sure that the competition will just have to eat up my idea and send me packing. So when you get to understand this, you now also decide whether to operate full time or to operate as what we call the moonlight, more like moonlighting in this case means where you have to get involved partly so that even when you invest in your little savings, you're sure that you still have other alternative, other options. Because in when you try to look at the business part of agriculture as agribusiness, you know that in anticipating a successful business, you should also expect your plans to fail over time, over and over again. And it is by this failure that you get to master the art of the business. That is, you should also have contingent plans and due diligence in place to be able to help you put in place some necessary infrastructure that will help you thrive in the business. And lastly, I also want to emphasize on the need or the role of finance. There, it's true that we advocate for engagement, youth engagement in agriculture, but there is no money out there. No investor will be willing to give you any money if they don't have anything convincing about the idea. Nobody's going, even the government, the bank, provided it's not a grant, you have to show something before you're able to attract the finance. And agriculture requires capital. That is one of the characteristics of an entrepreneur. Talking about those that want to invest in agriculture, you must have the gut. The gut is the entrepreneurial instinct. You must have the brain, talking about the experience and the skill set. And then lastly, which is the major thing there, is the capital. You must have the capital, at least something to start off with. There is no way you go into livestock production or crop production, talking about managing. You should be sure that you have the money to get the land, lease it, the equipment, the inputs, every single thing. And if you're going to rely on an investor to finance your business, there are three things or maybe more that I've realized over the 5 years I've been in the business.
Hello.
Get it started from my end here.
I think we are sort of we are sort of losing Emmanuel over there. Hello, Emmanuel. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. Okay. Pardon me.
Okay. Apologies for that. Okay. So
I was.
Okay. So let's say a layman like me. I don't know anything about agriculture. I literally I don't know anything about agriculture. One might ask the question, how do I decide to get into agriculture? Since I'm seeing that there are a lot of challenges that most of the panelists are talking about. Talked about financing issues, you've talked about stigma, you've talked about markets and stuff. How would one like me, how can I decide to venture into agribusiness, to venture into agripreneurship? Nixon touched on something that changing the mindset, moving away from what is that? Husbandry, crop husbandry,
Yes,
going into animal husbandry. For somebody like me that doesn't know anything about agriculture. And also Rashid also talked about he also talked about something. So somebody like me who doesn't know anything about agriculture, how can I decide to venture into agriculture? Ladies and gentlemen, over to you, our panelists.
Okay, I can try to add something or tackle that question. Of course, there are very few successful farmers in Malawi or in Africa as a continent who are playing the role modeling part in this sector. But if you could try to put an effort to find these very few successful farmers and try to learn and grasp how they managed to get where they are, it could be very helpful rather than just sitting down and waiting for someone to string you along. So if you could find these people and learn and develop, because of course it's not easy to find capital on its own, but then if you could ask them and say, how did you get to where you are? Or maybe they can take you to their field or wherever they do their business. They could teach you a few things about agriculture, and then you can have a change of mindset. You can venture into agriculture as a business.
Thank you. Finding role models and letting the role models, give you hands-on experience as to what agriculture is. Kefilwe,
Yes.
Why should I decide into venturing into agriculture? I mean, I love my laptop. Why should I go into the field?
Okay. In as much as we say agriculture, we should make it a career. I want to believe first things first, you need to have a passion for it. agriculture is one of the difficult things to do because it needs patience. So if you don't have passion for it in the beginning, it's going to be hard for you to proceed. Imagine having to plant like in 10 plots, and then you don't get nothing at the end of the day. You'll be so frustrated. So you need to have passion for it, because with passion, it builds patience. So I would say first things first, you need to have passion for agriculture. And then secondly, you need to start small. I want to believe each and every one of us have got a backyard. You need to start small, just with one plot there, and then you plant. If you want to venture into tomatoes, just do one plot of tomatoes, and then if you don't get anything, don't give up. Just try it again until you get it right. And then from one plot, you're gonna get 3 plots. From 3 plots, it's a hectare. From 1 hectare, you get up to 10 hectares. So passion and starting small, you go a very long way in agriculture.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you very much. Kefilwe talked about passion, starting small, and never giving up. So what sort of what sector in agribusiness would you, like, let's say, advise one to venture in? Would it be transportation? Would it be crops? Would it even be financing farmers to venture into agriculture? Looking at how the African agriculture setup is right now, how would you advise someone? And what sector would you advise someone to venture in?
Okay. For example, I'm into growing crops. I'm not into rearing livestock. So I had to sit down and see where my passion is. Passion goes a long way. And then from passion, you do research. Somebody might succeed into rabbit production. Somebody might succeed into mushroom production. Somebody might succeed in transportation. So you need, from passion, you need to do thorough research and see, according to your strengths and your weaknesses, where can you really venture into? Because I want to believe that in every sector or in every department in agriculture, there's still market and there's still opportunity. So you need to find your niche to see where you can really, really go into. I myself am into horticulture, and with rearing livestock, it's another thing I can do, but I can't go big. But I know with horticulture, yes, I can definitely be in. So any area in agriculture, there's so much profit in. You just need to find where you can fit.
Thank you very much. Any area in agriculture, there's profit. If I see that you want to add something. You had my question.
Yes, I did. So I want to add something to your first question that you mentioned earlier. So if you want to delve into agriculture and you have no idea, it doesn't really have to be that you be the one going to the field, right? You mentioned that finance is an issue. You can invest in a farmer and work with the farmer throughout the entire period of time or throughout the entire journey to understand how everything works. So that doesn't mean that you have to be in the field yourself, but you can learn. So if you know you want to now go into it on your own, you can now go afterwards to do your own thing, right? But again, you can still invest in a farmer. And again, you really do not have to go to the field, like I mentioned, because there's an entire value chain in agriculture. So you don't have to be the farmer going to the field. You can be a processor. You can work in the logistics space, the agricultural logistics. So it's another challenge, having to move your produce from the farm to the market. Logistics is a very big gap that a lot of people are not looking at in the agricultural space. If they can solve that, like 20% out of the post-harvest loss to be reduced because of good logistics. So let's say cold storages for tomatoes, peppers, and all those perishable, right? If you create a solution on cold storage transportation, it's going to go a long way. So you do not have to be like the field farmer or having to go to the field yourself to do anything in agriculture, but you can look at any gap in the value chain and fill in the gap. If you're a tech person, you can also fill in the gap somewhere in the agricultural space. So for drones, having to spray your insecticides with a drone is also a very big solution. If I have 10 hectares, if I have 50 hectares of land, and I cannot be going with manual labor to spray or to detect insects or to detect any pests affecting my grains or any of my farm produce, if you can get a drone or if you can build an app that can be detecting and giving me solutions on how I'm going to cure whatsoever thing that's affecting my crop, is also a solution that you can get money from, right? So you don't have to be the field person or the farmer wearing the boots and tilling the ground before you say you're in the agricultural space. So there's a very big value chain that we can always get to feel. So if you have passion for it, do your research, look for the gaps in the agricultural space, and look for how to provide solutions to this gap. And yes, you can now put them out there to funders and investors to put in money into your solution. And very soon you will scale.
Thank you very much. If I'm talking about the value chain there, I did not know that there was actually this value chain in agriculture. I actually thought it was all about, tilling the soil and being all dirty. I am learning a lot. I'm learning a lot. So if I was to ask another quick question, in your countries, what would you say is the most profitable agricultural field in your countries? Shall we start with Nixon in Malawi? What is the most profitable agriculture sector in Malawi, per se?
Hello? Can you please come again on that question?
Okay. So if I was to ask a question, let's say, what are the most two profitable agriculture sectors, or should I say agriculture channels in Malawi, or the most profitable agriculture niche in Malawi?
For me, I would say it's crops, crop farming is the most profitable one for me. But then you have to start small. So the larger you grow, the more profitable it gets and the lower the costs get. So crop husbandry is the most profitable for me, in my perspective.
Crop husbandry. And if I'm in your country, Nigeria?
Nigeria is a very high consumer country, right? So we spend 70% of our earnings on food. So which means that little depends on how you sell it. So livestock, grain, whatsoever, we consume a lot of it in Nigeria because we still get to import meat. We get to import chicken, we get to import cows, we get to import rice, we get to import maize. This just states that whatsoever thing we are currently farming in Nigeria is not enough to feed us as a country. So we are a very high consumer country. So anything, any grains, any of the agricultural produce sells in Nigeria.
Excellent. I believe, Emmanuel, you would also like to add on that, since you are also
definitely.
Nigerian.
I can agree less with her. Nigeria is a country of over 100 and about 200 million people, and we, even as big as we are, and with lots of investment we've made so far in agriculture, there are still food scarcity, and I can agree less because we still import a whole lot. You can't really say that this sector is more or of a prospect to the other, because talking about a livestock, we are engaged in livestock and yet we still import. So even the livestock industry is dependent on the value chain of the input, which is the feed they use in the feed material. So I think even the tech part of it, like talking about agriculture, this is an area I haven't really heard anyone, or maybe I missed out. I haven't really heard anyone chip in on that area of agriculture tech. It's another area that is thriving, that is huge in Nigeria. Tech solutions. Talking about agricultural fintech, talking about other tech that apply to agriculture. These are some areas that are really coming up, and young, steady um, of people out there are really exploring this area. To give you an example that is more relatable, I have a friend. He's one of those Nigerians in diaspora. He has no background in agriculture, but by virtue of my interaction and all of the exposures he's had, he was able to share one of his ideas with me how he's simulating some a tech solution that could be deployed because of the climate change issues and all of that to help to cushion the effects of that by simulating the rainfall and the irrigation. It's just a sort of technological simulation for a few years, maybe in a decade, to more like a predictive tool and analytics device to help control and provide a solution in the irrigation part of agriculture. There are lots of them out there. The precision tools, maybe like a farmer mentioned here, where drones are being deployed for crop health, soil, water, moisture, and all of that, predictive analysis. Some of these areas are thriving, and I also know these other countries, like in Kenya and Rwanda, a lot of these are being applied. So it's not just about crop production or livestock production. We should also see the opportunities that abound in tech. And tech is just more of those trends that is really thriving for the young ones. Because some people will not really want to engage in agriculture hands-on, like active involved, but they will want to bring in their tech part of it into agriculture. I guess that part will even draw more interest of the young ones into agriculture.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Emmanuel talking about agriculture as well. So, Kefilwe, what is the most, what are the two, what is the most profitable agriculture sector in Botswana in your end? I know that you guys sell a lot of beef. I saw it
Yes.
somewhere.
I would say crop in the sense that as youth, you cannot have enough money to buy cattle. So I'd say crops also, because you can always start at the backyard, and also when the harvest is really huge. So I'd say crops and beef, but also even pig really make a lot of money. You just need to, in terms of crops, you just need to find the one which is not common. For example, I'm doing mushrooms, which Botswana, they import like 98% of them. So you just need to find a niche market there, and don't grow anything that everybody's growing. You just need to find the one which is really unique, and then that's when you can make profit. But I would say crop.
Thank you. Crop, very profitable in Botswana. So do we have any comments or questions from the audience that you'd like to ask the panel? The floor is yours, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we have a question from Mariam Kadzamira. She's asking that it would be good to hear from the panel what they think is one of the game-changing solutions for African youth in agribusiness. Game-changing solutions for African youth in agribusiness.
Can I take that? Or let me just say something, then we can all add our own suggestions. So for me, it's agricultural technology, right? Infusing technology to agriculture, because that is the future. Let's look for problems and look for how technology can make it easier. And technology doesn't have to be that you're building one fancy app or you're creating a software or you're building drones. Technology can be as simple as creating solution with a phone call, using your WhatsApp, using or teaching or going to the field and teaching people on good agricultural practices. So for crop farmers, you know that if you use good agricultural practices, you're going to make ×2 yield of what you are currently doing. That is technology. That is making life easier for a farmer. That is you training them on knowing that if you put in more effort, if you do this, if you take 1 centimeter, you give 1 centimeter space from one grain to another grain, it's going to give you double yield. It is a good solution, but people are not really looking at that. And to me, it's a game changer because as a farmer, if you come to me and tell me, sell a solution to me, they're going to make my harvest better, gain ×2 of my previous year's yield. Why not? I will jump to your solution, right? So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. But again, you can see our technology, like the fancy technology, like GIS, having to take coordinates of farms. People are looking for how to get like the direct or the exact measurement of their farm, but they do not have that. So if you can create an app that you can take the farm measurements, send it directly from the farm to the owner, maybe an investor. So this is where my farm is situated. This is the coordinate of this farm. It is also a solution. So like I mentioned earlier, we should not just dwell on the fact that you have to put seed to the ground as a farmer and to grow, or you have to till the ground yourself and claim you're in the agricultural space, or say you're an agribusiness owner. You can provide solution in the entire value chain. Like just look for a problem. Obviously, as entrepreneurs, we are creating solutions. So if you have a problem and you can create solutions to it, definitely you're going to make money and you're going to like have a game-changing opportunity in the space. So do more research. If you really want to do it, you want to delve into the agricultural space, do research. Look for problems that current farmers are facing, provide solutions to it, and you will thrive.
Thank you very much. She's touched on technology, on applications, research, mostly agro-technology. And we also have another question here. We've got 2 questions. We've got a question from Atikonda. Atikonda is asking, where do we get information? I think it's where do we get information related to agriculture? And where do we get information like what kind of crops you can grow and in which area of the company? I believe in which area of, let's say, your country. And we also have another question relating to IT from Lawrence. He's asking, how do you integrate IT into your agribusiness if you haven't? And how do you implement this in various sectors that you're in, be it horticulture or animal farming? I believe these are the 2 questions to our panelists.
To answer the one for Atikonda, I believe the best information you can get is from the Department of Agriculture. I don't know, it differs from country to country, but here the best information where you can get is from the Department of Agriculture. So you go there and then you ask them about the statistics, especially when it comes to import and export of your crops. And then that's where you can see from your country, how much are you importing and how much are you exporting per crop. So if you're importing a lot, for example, I'd say mushrooms, if you are importing a lot of mushrooms, and then you sit down and you research to know why are you importing a lot of mushrooms? Why is it that farmers in your country are not making that certain crops? And then like Nyafuma, sorry for the name, as she has mentioned, you need thorough research, no matter how long it takes. You need to do your research, and then from your research, that's when you can start. But the best information you can get is from the Department of Agriculture and see where the statistics are like.
Thank you very much. Research has been mentioned the second time. Do we have anyone to comment
Okay,
or to answer to the questions that
further,
are.
okay, to contribute further to what yes, pardon me, I don't know how to pronounce that name. Castillo, right? I got it.
Kefilwe.
Okay, yes. To further buttress on her point is um, the when you study your ecosystem, you can actually see the gaps there. Like for instance, if you're in a country where there is high demand for protein, animal protein, you could study the whole value chain and guess which part of this value chain is disjointed or where there appears to be a gap that you can fit in. By exploring, like you said, research, you can also not just beyond research, you can just observe typically. Like most of us, we live in an environment, we know that most of these things were imported before from Benin Republic. Until the government slammed a ban on the importation of frozen chicken, we realized that the price of these things went up and they were scarcity. So the simplest thing for me to do if I had interest in going into agriculture is that I realized that last year there were chicken surplus in the market, but now it's no longer as it used to be. That is a good pointer for me to know. I need to invest in this area, so I need to study the value chain. Would I go into primary production, or would I have to go and look for those that are producing to buy from them and process? So it's just by mere observation of the ecosystem, the environment, what is prevalent, what appears to be the problem. Do the people in your community have to travel a far distance, like to another state, and access those of protein and bring them down to your community to sell? You might not see, oh, I may have to come in as in the logistics, or I may come in to provide solutions in the coast in the storage. Maybe create a system, a storage facility where when they bring these things in, I can provide them solutions to cold chain storage facility for preservation of this thing. So it's by observing that you get to know. And then the other person asked how IT could be applied to agriculture. IT in the per se is not really huge as it sounds. There are simple things like um, if right? If said in Nigeria here, for us in Nigeria here, it's one of the simplistic thing you could do. Your social media is also part of the IT tool you could leverage for your business. That is a social be able to have a wide coverage for your brand, to communicate your brand, to push your brand out there. Social media is one of it. It could be an accounting software you use for your farm, for your business. It could be your project, your softwares or beyond softwares. For us in the poultry industry, in my farm, we've had issues of heat stress at some point, and we had to do some research on what some other farms are using. And that was when we got to explore some little tools. These are tech tools. Some of them are alarm systems that when the temperature goes up, they get activated. They get to activate some kind of a sprinkling system to dampen the pen for the heat in the pen. And some of these things are it's just beyond. It's way beyond that. Some are in the accounts because we know in some African countries, some people are not really exposed to some of these little technologies, such as talking about accounting. Some people don't even keep accounts or records of their business. So if you're talking to an investor, you don't even have you don't even have your facts, your data in a way that they are presentable, that someone can look at them at a glimpse of it and just make some actionable insights out of them. But no, so this is where IT can come in. You could leverage on some simple tools that will help you aggregate your data in one place, maybe into charts, graphs, that you don't need to have all of that accounting skills to be able to understand your numbers and your the facts about your business. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for enlightening us there. Talked about technology as well. Thank you very much. There was a comment. There was a comment here from Shakira Piri. I think I've lost that comment. Where is it? Okay, I think I've lost it. But anyway, when I find it, I'll read it. Just to remind you, Nixon stated something that if we can identify farmers who we can talk directly to, and they can give us guidance on the best path to take. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to wind up. If anybody has got any comment or any question, the floor is over to you. I'm taking the very last question.
Okay, I guess someone is asking a question. Yeah, maybe it's the question you said you lost from one bishop. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. He was asking Bishop J. Oh yeah, how can we boost up goat farming to the area where theft is challenging? Assume that a farmer has got 5 goats, for example, which is small scale and difficult to employ someone as a head boy. We're talking about more challenges in farming. Yeah. So how can we boost up goat farming? I believe he's also talking about animal husbandry here. How can we boost up animal husbandry?
Okay. I guess I would have to say a little bit of my experience here. Starting off, um, about 5 years ago when I know I started from the backyard before I eventually got my land, started developing land for to have my business separated from my residential area. And starting a business in agriculture, like he said here, you may have to start small. But to, okay, let me address this first from the area of tech. In livestock industry, this is one of the prevalent challenges some farmers get to talk about. Your employees, it might not just be from your employees, it might just be from your environment. People are fond of penetrating or you know, the issue of theft is really something that has really shut down a lot of farms. And what I would advise, based on what I've done so far, is that it was an issue to a point that I was losing money. At the end of the month, when we do our account, it's not balancing off. You realize you're making the report or the record, it's showing a lot of sales, but these sales are not accounted for. And if you try to dig further into this, you realize some of them are actually theft of this small pay from your staff, from your employees. And in B to curtail that, there was something we desired to do. We had to install solar powered CCTV camera and also had to erect a perimeter fence for my farm. And ever since we did that with the CCTV, I know more than twice, we've been able to apprehend some of those culprits. Some were staff caught on CCTV, some were intruders from the community where we have a business. So by the time we were able to set these things up and put some signs, even we went further looking for dogs as a security dog to have dogs in our business premises so that when people come to the entrance, because now we have a perimeter fence, you come to the entrance and you see a bold sign on the gate that this facility is under 247 CCTV surveillance and another sign, beware of dogs. Automatically, it creates some kind of impression or it has a way of dampening that instinct, be it from your employee or from the intruders that this facility is being watched. And so the chances of stealing and getting away is not really advisable. So you have to leverage on some things that will help you curtail that. It could be if you have the money, you could go for cameras, you could set up systems or structures that will make it difficult for people to steal from you. That is maybe an area where you have to implement some kind of division of labor, where one staff might have to be responsible for the account, another staff might have to be responsible for the inventory, while another has to be an oversight. So So, but when you allow all these things to be in as a role or in one office, the person is likely to pass things off and have create a kind of system or loopholes that will favor them to steal from you. But like I've just said here, one division of level. You don't allow one person to be in a position or in a role that will oversee the critical part of your business. But when there are people involved in these roles, some people's mindset could differ from each other, where they will not have to agree to or connive or do something fishy in the business or in the company where they are working. And then you explore some security, anti-theft systems, and also set up structures in your company that will make these um, cases not favorable to thrive. Yeah, that's it for my end.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Emmanuel talked about quite a few things: technology, segregation of duties. He also talked about putting in considerable controls so that theft should not occur within your farming premises. So right about now, I believe we've learned a lot from our panelists. They've taught us quite a lot. If you aren't interested in farming, I believe after this panel discussion, I think I'm going to start farming. I'll probably get something behind my backyard. I'd like to thank all the panelists. Taught us a lot. We've learned a lot. You guys are really awesome. And right about now, we are winding up. I'd like to thank Nixon from Malawi. I'd like to thank Kefilwe from Botswana. I'd like to thank Ifamu from Nigeria. I'd also like to thank Emmanuel from Nigeria as well. We can also continue with the discussion on our Facebook page. There's a link that Consolata has posted. I believe you can see it. You can also join the link and the discussion will go on further. Thank you all very, very much. And on behalf of Discover Your Voice Network, Shake Solutions, our sponsors, Mara Basi. I have problems with pronouncing that name. My name is Stanley Lenka. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining tonight. Our panelists, you guys were awesome. You guys were great. And just a reminder, the goal of Define Your Voice Network is to build a proactive and problem-solving mindset amongst the African youth. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all for joining tonight. And if you'd like to be part of the next upcoming programs, you can contact Bongani Consolata Tetwa. So, on this marks the end. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining. Thank you very much, and good night.
Having us.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Good night, everyone. Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you.